We are live, folks. You got David Porter here working on our line with Impact Money. We have the best in finance, early stage technology startups. And we're also looking into private property, how beneficial it can be for you. We'll go over the stock markets, some investment platforms that we're looking at. We have Matthew Dixon coming on soon. He'll be on at the 20 minutes into the hour. And you need to have control over how you respond to everything. What's up,
Hello,
Bruce?
Sir David Porter, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great to see you in the morning, top of the morning. Welcome to our friends who are in Texas and Louisiana who are joining us on the Smart Money Culture TV. We really enjoy coming to your television sets. And twice a day we do 5 a.m. and, of course, 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. And we are growing the station a lot. So very happy to be there as well, streaming. Go ahead, David.
Super excited about growing the station.
Yes, absolutely. As well as streaming across platforms on X, one of our favorite platforms, and LinkedIn, YouTube, all of those different platforms. So we have a fun show today. Good morning to you as well. We have a fun show today. We have our good friend Gordon Einstein that will be joining us a little bit later in the hour. Of course, we have our wonderful brain, wonderful person, Matt Dixon, experienced trader, charting extraordinaire, really does a wonderful job, and he is going to do an altcoin review, and that's going to be pretty interesting. How are we growing this station? We are growing this station by building it out. So right now we are reaching about 7 million people, and about 30% of those people watch local television. And so we have a reach of about 2.3 million right now, whereas everywhere is we're adding Tallahassee right off the top, of course, South Carolina, and then I could go kind of down the list. But the plan is we've moved it up to be in front of 50 million people. We were saying by the end of the year, but now we're looking at 50 million by the end of July. And so that is the plan that we're putting together. It's a little bit of arm twisting, I got to be honest, to get everybody on board with that. A lot of these stations, a lot of these local stations, these guys are used to making the money that they have been making. And of course, the way that we are doing television is a little different. You are on YouTube, my friend. We are on live TV as well as on my X account. You can check us out on X. We are live on my X account, which is @NetworksManager. Make sure to follow Sir David Porter on X, as well as myself @NetworksManager. And Matt Dixon is MD Trade. That reminds me, I got to send over our link for Matt. How are things over in Ireland, David?
Yeah, we're here to make a difference, so that's what we're doing, pumping and jiving every day, twice a day, and we'll be making a bigger impact on our third show, which you'll hear about later on.
Yes, and how are things in Ireland?
I mean, it's Ireland. It's one of the greatest economies in the world. I think it's in the top 5 and at least the top 10 for sure. And so
it's the
things
top
are moving.
5. It's the top 10. Well, I know there's a lot going on. The political situation across the West is pretty crazy. I was looking at some of they had some more boats that were hitting Italy, right? And so that political, situation there, it's just crazy all over the place. So now we have, of course, Trump as well, and what's going on with the vote. I think that the vote itself is I think going to be really in question, and you have the current administration that is. Let me just. Gordon Einstein is messaging me. We started. Yes, about more like 40, more like 30. We have as well, the situation where now the current administration is really moving to criminalize some of the talk about the election that may or may not go against the, and they're going to use AI. They can use AI. That's the new thing. You can use AI in order to control what people are allowed to talk about. And, it's actually one thing that Elon put out the other day. He says, hey, we're going to try and no.
This is live TV, baby. This is live TV.
It's live TV.
It looks like they're gonna use
he
AI
does it live. He's messaging me.
Yeah,
I think he's having some dinner. I think
gonna...
Gordon's having a dinner in Dubai on the 27th. He wanted us to come to. I'll still be doing Annie. I'm going to be doing Annie, the play, of course, still
tonight.
My lighting is messing me up here. It's making me invisible.
That's the AI. They're trying to decide how to glitch you out of the camera.
They're trying to figure out how to glitch me out. So what they're setting up is for this to basically criminalize what is going on. We lost David there for a minute, but that's okay, I guess. If you talk about it. So I have actually said a couple of times that I think that they are. There he is.
They're all over us today, man.
They're all over us today, man. It's true. They are all over us, but that's great. Yesterday was funny. She says you're playing Copperfield again.
Yeah.
Yesterday was great because some of the people in certain groups that were just saying my impressions are low. My impressions are low on X. I didn't really notice too much, but some of the people were saying, and I said, well, that's the feds. They're on vacation today. It's President's Day. So all those impressions that you would normally get from them tracking everything that you're doing, you're not getting today.
That's funny.
Probably more true than anybody wants to admit.
Yeah.
So we have a situation, of course, with the election where I have been said, I've said multiple times that I think that they are just planning for Trump to win. But I'll tell you what, they're going to go kicking and screaming. There's 1.8 million ballots that have been absentee ballots that have been requested in the state of Michigan.
I mean, that's a lot of people going on vacation or taking a trip.
I mean, that's 80% increase from last year, and everybody saw what happened last year with all of those mail-in ballots. So the state was won by a razor slim margin, 100,000 votes or so out of 4 or 5 million, about 5 million that were cast. And same thing with North Carolina. So it's going to be a big push. I'm not sure, with everybody that we have that has come in as well to the country illegally, I'm sure a percentage of those are going to vote. I mean, let's just say that, 10% vote or even 5%. I mean, I don't know. It's 500,000 people. Let's say it's 10 million, which I'm sure it's a lot more. But let's say it's 10 million because that seems to be the what everybody's allowed to say, right? So if 10 million, so let's say 5% of them vote. That's 500,000 voters. You put them in the right place and it's all over. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I definitely hope that we're going to have a good election. I hope it's a safe election. But it remains to be seen. Markets today are a bit tepid, David. Everybody's looking at the Fed, the FOMC meeting.
Yes, all the experienced people are looking at the Fed.
All the experienced people. So the FOMC is a division of the Federal Reserve, and so they're going to come out and they're going to wreak havoc on the markets. That's what Matt told us yesterday. He says he thinks it is going to affect the market. So, oh man, that means close your positions.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to protect your money,
protect your capital. Close your positions.
I know it's not your style.
What do the initials stand for? The FOMC stands for, let me see here. FOMC stands for the Federal Open Market Committee. Paper money is no good. You're absolutely correct. Paper money is baloney. And that YouTube that you're watching right there, we have a partnership with them. I don't know where in the world they got their followers. But we are happy to have the partnership for sure. Crypto Cakes, wonderful group behind those guys. They're good friends of ours. We met them in Vegas years ago. David and I, at the same conference, as a matter of fact, that David and I met Fly Mackey, the great Fly Mackey, who put together this TV network.
The biggest, baddest conference.
Yeah, that was a really fun conference, right? What was it? CryptoCon? No.
World CryptoCon.
World CryptoCon. They hired me to be the MC. I think every year they did it, which was always great. My wife's like, "You can't go. It's Halloween." I'm like, "Oh, honey, I gotta go. Sorry, they're paying me. Gotta go." No, I mean, actually, it really got when was the last time the Federal Reserve was audited? Never. It's never been audited. And this is like it is a crime. It's unbelievable that the Federal Reserve has never been audited.
Yeah.
And you know why they've never been audited, though? Because they're in charge. They're the ones ruling us. They actually are in charge of Congress, too. Congress can't do anything without them. If the Federal Reserve decides not to print the money, the Federal Reserve decides not to front the money to Congress that Congress wants for all of its little things, for its wars and everything else that it wants, then they don't have to do it. And if they decide to front the money without Congress, they can do that too. And that's one of the reasons why they have been a little bit kind of really with the full court press on getting this 95 billion approved. Now, it's really not even 95 billion. It's really 98 billion, because with that 95 billion comes about $3 billion in profit for the Federal Reserve. BRICS is coming. And BRICS is backed by gold, supposedly. BRICS is a group of nations. Of course, you have Russia in there. You have China in there. You have Brazil in there. You have all of the people that everybody's trying to cancel, but you can't cancel them. Saudi Arabia too. BRICS is going to change a lot. It's already changing. You know what we did to ourselves, really, by using the U.S. dollar. We still are the world currency, but what we did by using the U.S. dollar in foreign policy and by using it for sanctions is we made people not use the U.S. dollar. So we actually shot ourselves in the foot, because they had to look for other ways to settle their trades. Instead of using the U.S. dollar, they had to use rubles, or they had to use the yuan, or they had to use whatever else, Bitcoin, anything else. And so it was definitely a double-edged sword for us. We have an interesting couple of second half of the show. We're going to go to commercial here on Smart Money Culture TV in just a second. So if you're watching us on TV and there in Texas and Louisiana, we'll be right back. We're going to play a commercial from Fly Mackey and the crew here, and we'll be right back with Matt Dixon. We'll have Matt Dixon. He's going to do an altcoin review, which I'm actually pretty excited about. And then we're going to have the great Gordon Einstein on. Gordon Einstein, a fellow guy in Dubai, Matt. I know Matt's backstage watching. So Gordon Einstein is a good guy. He just got married, and I am excited to have him on. So what's happening to the U.S. within the next 20 years? I don't know, man. We might not even be around. I mean, seriously, who knows? We're bombing everybody. I hate to see it. I don't even want to put it in my titles anymore. I was like really trying to stop World War III, and I've almost thrown up my hands. I don't know if we can stop it. There's too many powers that want this major war, regional war, world war.
Don't sound like that.
50 million people died in World War II. 50 million. So if we go into World War III, I mean, what do you think the death toll is going to be? It's going to be 100 million? It's going to be 300 million? I mean, we have no idea. It could be 1 billion people. It could be more. We have no idea. We have nuclear liquor.
Yeah.
We have nuclear weapons all over the place. We don't even know where they are. You know? We don't even know. We don't even know. All right, let me just see how we're doing on our commercial here. I think we should be about good. Let's bring on Matt anyhow here. Yes, it is time. Mr. Dixon, the great Matt Dixon. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Again.
And afternoon. We have like a Dubai double header today.
Great. So I'll keep it reasonably short. Tell me when to stop because I can go on about these alts forever. There's so many of them, of course.
So I plan, just so you know, I plan to bring Gordon on. Let me just look at the schedule. I should probably start sharing these at 46 at 46 past the hour. So maybe a little earlier, just so we lead in. We'll have a commercial break at about 41. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, as you said, there's 12 members. They meet 8 times a year, and that's when you get the interest rate setting. They can actually change interest rates at other times if there's an emergency, but normally it's 8 times a year. And these FOMC minutes, it's not a separate meeting tomorrow. It's actually it's basically they're releasing the minutes of the last FOMC meeting 3 weeks ago.
I see.
It tells you a lot more about the thinking of individual members, whether there was consensus about holding rates steady, whether there was anybody against it, who voted which way and so on. Just tells you a lot more about the thinking behind what their policy is on interest rates and the economy. And so it is very informative, and often it is actually quite a big market mover because sometimes there's some surprises come out. I mean, the interest rate setting meeting itself, everybody knew beforehand. If you remember, there's more than a 95% chance that rates were going to stay on hold. So effectively, there was no chance rates were going to change. So that in itself isn't actually going to move the market because we knew what was going to happen. But we got some information out during the FOMC meeting with Fed Chair Powell answering questions to the press conference. And the press are supposed to ask probing questions to try to elicit information and get some idea about what's happening in the markets, what the decision-making process is. But these FOMC meeting minutes that are due out tomorrow night, quite late tomorrow, 11 o'clock Dubai, whatever time that is in America. But it is worth watching because they really do often move the markets quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see. And I'll go into sharing screen because I'm going to go into a few of the alts today, but I will just touch on, I'm going to start with the SPX. So that's the S&P 500 effectively. And yes. I think that's actually a really good barometer for the market to see where things are potentially likely to go. So I'm going to go straight onto, hopefully you can see that.
Just add it to the stage. Here you go. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the S&P 500, and you can see it's been on a tear ever since the financial crisis back in 2008. It's done nothing really. I mean, yeah, we had a serious setback with the COVID crisis here two big red candles. But that just puts it in context, how much the setback was during the COVID crisis, and then just continued on higher. Now, it is higher highs and higher lows. So clearly at some point, the trend will change. But for now, the trend is still higher. And you would never want to bet against a trend in the market. So the trend is higher. But this is on a very big time scale. I'm looking at monthly candles. So each of these candlesticks is 1 month duration. So what I normally do is look at the very long-term picture and try to look where the overall trend is. And as I say, the overall trend is very clearly higher at the moment, and you wouldn't really want to bet against that. Normally, you wait for the trend to change and you look for confirmation of a trend change before you actually jump into potentially a short position here. So from the monthly, we potentially then look at the weekly, which is a shorter time frame, and we can see that final wave up just going back to the monthly, measured from here, which was about 4,000, sorry, in the final point here, sorry, was about 4,100. That's this last green wave up here. So,
sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Can you still hear me there, Bruce?
I can. Sounds like you're trying to dial somebody up. But I can still hear you.
I'm having a problem with, I think it's actually Siri trying to butt in. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, so assuming you can still hear me, with 4,100 there, so let's just look at that last little bit of a move up there. So I'll look on the weekly. So this is the move up here. Sorry, this final bit here from the 4,100. That again is still that. So we're not given much more information here. So we just keep going back now to smaller and smaller time frames. And now we're looking at that last bit. So what we'll do is we'll expand that and see what more information, because this is the last wave up. And we'll see within that last wave what it can tell us. Now we can already see that we had a spike high here. This spike high was actually the CPI data that came out, and the market was pushing up strongly, and then the CPI data came out higher than expected inflation, and the market tanked on that news because it basically is telling us that the high inflation means they're not going to be so aggressive in lowering interest rates. And so the market doesn't like it. The market wants lower rates. It means there's more money flowing around. That didn't happen. So we got this candle here. And this candlestick, if we enlarged it, it's actually, quite a bearish candlestick, and especially the one following it. So this is actually a bearish start to it. And we can see the market hasn't broken above that high. So we're seeing the early stages of the beginning of a trend change. That's quite important. So if we just go shorter term, we'll flip to shorter term. In fact, we'll get rid of that because it's tainting the overall look of it. So we look at shorter term and look at that downturn in more detail. We can see it's actually quite an aggressive downturn there now. And we got to push higher, but the push higher didn't push above the previous high, so still it's potentially corrective. So what this is, it's either going to be an A, B, C down, which is just a modest correction, or it's a 1, 2, 3, and it's the beginning of an impulse to the downside of a change in the overall direction. But even if it's just an ABC, it still tells us there's likely to be more downside in the S&P, and we can see the futures are down quite sharply today. Let's just see how the market actually goes when it opens. So if we just go on really short term and focus on that last little bit, and I think it's quite important just to see potentially turning points in markets. It's very important to actually identify potential turning points in markets. So this was the last little bit of the market, and we can basically see quite clearly here that we had 5 waves down. I've not labeled it. I've taken the labels off just so you can see for yourself. From the top here, we had a wave 1 down, then a wave 2 up, and then wave 3 itself is made up of some internal waves. So we had wave 3 here. And wave 3, if you measured it, and we might as well just do that very quickly just to show you this in practice. Measure wave 1. Actually, it's not quite there. Wave 1 is not quite at that point. Wave 1 was actually down to there. And we'll transpose that to wave 2, which is there. And we can see, I haven't done it absolutely precisely, but it's pretty close. We can see that the wave 3 was 2.618. That golden ratio, 2 times, 2 plus the golden ratio. So very, very important, very, very typical of a wave 3 down. And then we got wave 4 and wave 5. So that's an impulse down. Then we get a correction higher, which cannot, by law, according to the rules of Elliott Wave, go above that wave. And it didn't. Amazingly, it stopped before it, and then the market started moving down. So at the moment, it's telling us we're likely to move further down. So that's just the backdrop that markets look as though they're going to move lower. So let's just rip through some of these altcoins and look at where we are on the altcoin picture. And we'll look at a longer time frame. 15 minutes probably too short. So we'll look at a slightly bigger picture there. And basically, I've told you so many times about when waves overlap. So for example, this wave down here, the low point of it overlaps this wave here. And same here, we've got overlap where this wave down is overlapping this wave. There's lots and lots of overlap. It's telling you that we're in a corrective region and we're not actually in an impulsive move at the moment. So because we've got a correction down and a correction higher, it's highly likely that we're going to correct further down to give us a lower, even if it's just a correction, ABC correction, highly likely we're going to see lower. So we're starting to get a flavor of what might happen in the market. So the S&P has told us potentially lower, and we looked at some candlesticks. We looked at the Elliott wave structure overall, and a few other things. We can look at divergences as well, and we can see that the market's potentially looking to correct lower. So Aptos, everyone's talking bullishly at the moment. I actually, although there are some deviations from that, I looked at the futures positioning on the Dow Jones, and 78% of traders on the Dow are actually short the Dow at the moment. So there's a lot of people expecting a bit of a sell-off coming in the market. So maybe we're looking at the same indicators. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. There's a lot of people right now. When it becomes too extreme, it's usually a contrarian signal. When too many people are long or short, it very often goes the opposite way. But when that position is building, it's usually quite predictive. So there's a lot of people short right now, and even institutions are heavily short at the moment, and institutions are usually right on this. They actually take their positions before the retailers. So telling us that potentially there's some downsides coming in the market. So that's Aptos, looking corrective sideways, expecting some downside. We'll just jump into Algorand. Again,
one of my favorites here.
I love Algorand, an amazing project.
Yep.
They're well funded. They've got real good technicals. They're partnered with some universities. They've got some great researchers in there. I think it's got amazing potential. But I just looked at this. I was actually looking at this long before we were preparing for this show. And again, it looks like we've had basically some kind of A wave down. The B wave up, interestingly, looks as though it may go to precisely the 0.382, or actually that's 0.618 in fact. So that's the 0.618 retracement from the bottom here back up to here. If you measure this whole measurement here, back up 0.618, which is the golden ratio, and that gives you our target for Algorand. So actually maybe a little bit higher, but then we are still looking at a sell-off. So like the other assets, the next major move looks as though it's going to be to the downside, even if we see a bit more upside short term. And when we say short term, maybe this is before the FOMC minutes. Maybe FOMC will be the stimulus that causes the market to sell off. Maybe they're going to be a bit more hawkish with those in those minutes tomorrow. So we can look at a similar picture across the board. NEAR protocol, once again, it's A01,
another good one.
CO3, another great one, yeah.
Yep.
So, we had a potential turning point here at 100%. You see it did turn down. So from a trading perspective, again, if you followed this, you'd have potentially gone short with your risk reward. The risk was to go higher. The reward was to go lower. You can see the risk, you can have your stop loss just above this line, and then it moved down substantially. When it moves down, you just move your stop loss into guaranteed profit. And then no matter what happens, you could use a trailing stop and you could collect quite a lot of this profit. Then eventually the market did reverse and go higher, but you don't mind because you moved your stop loss into guaranteed profit. and possibly even continue to move it as the market moved down, or you just use an automated trailing stop. But this is the way to get profits really easily with good risk reward, lock those profits in and get a really good trade record. And you don't get any big losses because your loss is limited to very small upside, where your gain is potentially much bigger. So that's a really good way to trade. But again, this so far looks kind of corrective to the upside. We may even get a little bit more of a push higher, potentially. But it's looking corrected because, again, we're seeing quite a lot of overlap. And this move down here actually overlapped this move up here. So I don't like it as being impulsive higher. It looks corrective to me. That's telling me we've got lower to go with Near Protocol. Even though it's an amazing project, I think it's got lower to go. Here's one of Bruce's favorites. I think he's done very well. Our favorites, not just Bruce.
Indeed.
Many people have done very well out of ICP. Not those who got in early, because it started, had a massive dump after its initial launch.
I definitely got liquidated once or twice in the early days.
Yeah, but recently it's done really well. But once again, we're seeing an awful lot of overlap with this. You can just see it overlapping. So for me, this is a kind of ABC down, probably an ABC higher, and I would expect we are going to see some downside to come on algo round. Just interesting, looking at short-term signals. We had a short-term signal here where this blue line is, and you remember we talked so much about divergence, and here we had higher highs on price, lower highs on RSI over the same period of time. That was telling you there's some downside here. Now, again, you need to use that little technique of when it moves into, you've got a risk reward there, so you can put your risk just above and your reward is below, the bigger reward below. And then when it moves into profit, and we got a really good red candle there, when it moves into profit, just protect it. Protect any amount you want, small amount. And then if it continues down, you collect more and more profit. But if it breaks higher like this did, again, you've crystallized your profit. You don't mind where it goes after that. But overall, this is corrected because we're seeing overlapping movement, as against this movement here, for example, which was, you can see there's no overlap, lots of green candles straight up pretty much with no overlap. You've got a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a very clear impulsive move. But then we're getting this strong correction, sideways correction, before we potentially get a further element of the correction to the downside. So XRP is one that we're waiting for. Potentially we've got, XRP could be about to take off. It's one of those tokens which just hangs about forever. If we do see a little bit more upside on some of the other tokens that we mentioned, maybe XRP could give us some really nice upside. We're not saying guaranteed the market's going to correct downwards. We're just saying that is a risk to be aware of. So we could actually see markets rally to the upside. Who knows? So we're staying on altcoins. So we won't go to Bitcoin today, but Ethereum is still an altcoin. And it'd be good to just look at where Ethereum is. I mean, quite interestingly, looking at potential for Ethereum, we have clearly, this is a very long-term channel we have here on Ethereum. If I go onto the daily even, we can start to see it's quite a long-term channel there on the daily. It stayed very well within this channel, parallel channel, but then just recently we broke above it. So that's really interesting. Tells us that potentially we might test the downside. This is quite a bullish sign, to be honest, on Ethereum. So maybe there's definitely two sides to the argument. So what you need to do is manage your risk reward. So for this one, if you were looking to go long Ethereum, you would wait for it to break above. You look for the retest down to this channel line, then you jump in, and then your risk would be the other way around. Your risk would be to the downside, your reward to the upside. So if you'd gone in long here, you'd have your stop loss below and basically look to trade it to the upside. But now you're in decent profit. You'll protect just a few dollars guaranteed profit now. If Ethereum carries on to the upside, you're laughing. If it goes to the downside, you just take away a small profit from it. So that's quite nice. Solana is a good one. Obviously, it's another altcoin. There's various potential counts for it. I think that we're going to go for one. I believe we're going to have a further correction to the downside, like with the other altcoins. But I think following that, I do think, again, like other altcoins, we're going to rally to some really good highs here. Not all-time high necessarily, but certainly highs above where we're showing here. And really good on Solana. We've got basically in blue a 1, 2, 3 up here, which actually it's probably there in the label. Yeah, 3 there. And then a correction. So the correction, I think, is not over. So I think we've had an A wave, a B wave, and I think we're probably going to correct down the C wave. Then we're going to rally up higher. So, or we could be complete the correction here where I've got labeled A. It could be just a complete ABC correction instead of WAXY. It could be ABC. And we could then be rallying soon to new all-time highs. So again, just watch your risk reward. If you trade it correctly, you'll make profit no matter what. It doesn't matter whether you're a bull or you're a bear. If you do your risk reward correctly, you make money whatever the market's doing. I can trade a market, even a market that's going up. I can actually just keep selling it using proper risk reward, entering at the right points. You can still make profit, even selling in a bull market, as long as you sell at the right times, because markets never go in one direction. There's always pullbacks along the way. So even with this amazing run we've had on Solana, you can look at the Fibonacci extensions. Wave 3 was a particular extension here, perfect Fibonacci extension. So you could have potentially sold short there, protected just above. As soon as it moves in profit, you guarantee it, and you can trade that way. But obviously, the best way of all is to actually trade with the trend. And there's a number of tools. Again, we go over that within our Learn How to Trade course, learnhowtotrade.club, to sign on to it. We actually teach you some of those indicators which tell you how to identify a trend, because the best way to make profit, of course, is to jump with the trend and trade with the trend. But I'm just saying, potentially you'd even trade against an overall trend and still make profit. But clearly, you make a lot more profit if you're with the trend.
And we are going to commercial on Smart Money Culture TV. So just wanted to tell you guys, we'll be right back we'll have Gordon Einstein join us as well right after the commercial. Go ahead, Matt.
No, that's fantastic. So we'll just, we can just see, we're looking at altcoins, but not, I'm just staying away from Bitcoin, but pound against the dollar is very typical. It's a good proxy. There's a good correlation with crypto, and just look at it. We've had, a movement down, a corrective movement higher. The pound is hanging on for dear life, but it's looking as though there's some more downside to come for the pound. And the UK economy is in the doldrums right now. We've got an election coming up, but it's a really, actually, markets don't normally do well when Labour's voted in. It looks as though Labour's going to get a landslide.
Oh, wow.
So that may not be necessarily good for the market.
Is Labor more like the Republican Party or the Democrat Party in the U.S.?
I'd say they're more like the Democrats. So they're more liberal than. So your Republicans are more conservative, aren't they, than the Democrats?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
overall, to be honest, it's like a uniparty. It's like I always say, DC's like Hollywood for ugly people. These people, they just act. It's like whatever they need to say or do, they do it. And it's just one big club.
So under which party, or under which, either Democrats or Republicans, which normally does the market do better under?
Well, it's the market normally does better under the Republicans overall. Now, there's a lot of there's a lot of money in the Democrat Party. You have a lot of these ETFs, and these are all big Democrat people, and I feel like a lot of times they will crash the market kind of on purpose.
In the UK, the more conservative, obviously the Conservatives are the Conservative Party, so normally the market does better under Conservatives, and they are very conservative in nature. And the Liberals, not the Liberals, but sorry, the Labour Party are a lot more liberal. They're basically known as the party of spending. So they tend to spend very freely on all sorts of, on everything, basically, very much on social causes. And
it used to be like that, but it's hard. It's really hard to tell the difference these days. It's like, I feel like, and even when they vote, it's hard to tell them apart. I think
you're right, actually. I think they're morphing more into becoming more and more similar. So the electorate just traditionally they voted one way or the other. But actually, I think you're right. They actually are now far closer in their policy alignment, and they may speak differently, but actually the implementation of what they actually do is very, very similar, I think, these days.
Yes. Let's go ahead and bring on our friend. You guys can say hi before you step off here. Our friend here, Gordon, the great Gordon Einstein. How are you, brother?
I'm great. And to be honest, that was fascinating. I was kind of, at times tight, but I was enjoying the show. I need to watch this more. But hold on. Why are you steering clear of Bitcoin? I missed that part.
No, Bitcoin's fantastic. I mean, the fundamentals behind Bitcoin are absolutely amazing. Obviously the ETF approval, money just is flowing in. We looked at money flows yesterday, and there's a bit of money flow out of GBTC, but all the other ETFs, money is flowing in, far outpacing anything that's flowing out. So no, certainly not again. It's just that we're focusing today on altcoins. We talk every day about Bitcoin because obviously it's the grandfather of them all, it's Big Daddy. So we're always talking Bitcoin. Just thought, give those viewers a chance to look at some of those amazing altcoins, because some of those are really AI focused, and they've got lots of different use cases and utilities and so on. But there's some really interesting ones within the altcoins. We either know or know something about Bitcoin. Everybody knows something about Bitcoin, but trying to give
I thought I heard blasphemy, but you've lowered my blood pressure. I also just caught a quick snippet that I guess Ethereum is pumping. I don't know if you want to call that an alt. I guess Ethereum is pumping because now there's rumors, or the word on the street is their ETF, or its ETF, I should say, is on the horizon. Do you have an opinion on that? Point of view?
Yeah. Sorry,
it's definitely coming. Go ahead, Matt.
They're talking about May for the Ethereum ETF, and that would potentially be very positive. But then you've got to think with Ethereum, it's a great story, especially with the ETF coming up. And there should be a lot more money, institutional money in particular. So we had that retail adoption phase up until now, basically, which took Bitcoin from 0 to 69,000. And now we've got the institutional phase, which really could. We thought it was crazy, Bitcoin a million, sorry. But it could actually happen because there's only 21 million Bitcoins. Ethereum's a slightly different story. I don't think Ethereum will ever flip Bitcoin, but a lot more money could flow into it. But the only thing is, with Ethereum, you have got a lot more competition. So the likes of Solana, and there's lots of other tokens coming in that will compete directly with Ethereum. So slightly different story, but the ETF should be a big event for Ethereum.
To me, the only slight differentiator between Ethereum and the other coins with respect to sticking them in ETF is Ethereum sort of has a legal consensus of being commodity, not security, and the other ones are, to me, a little bit more gray zone. So if it's a little bit safer from a regulatory perspective. I'm not saying it's technologically better, though it may be more adopted. But I think the jury's still out on the legality of those other ones.
Well, there's also the whole part where Bitcoin is it's decentralized, so there's no central authority, and Ethereum is even though it's fairly decentralized, it still has a central authority. So the coins can be seized by a court order.
You mean Saint Vitalik?
Pardon?
You mean Saint Vitalik? Is that our central authority or the foundation?
I don't know how many calls Vitalik actually makes. We've all met him. He's kind of he's a hard guy to connect with, I would say. I don't know how many calls he makes, but certainly there is a central authority that the different governments around the world can call and say, hey, I need you to seize these, or we have a court order to do this, and that can happen, and that's a big differentiating factor, I think.
Sure. And by the way, it's very generous of you to say that the Republicans and Democrats are at all different.
Oh, I know, right? They're like totally. It's so funny. I mean, we're old, man, but back, I can remember.
Thanks for that.
You really had these separate parties. I remember Ron Paul running. Ron Paul ran, and it was like he was winning. Ron Paul was winning. Everybody loved the guy. He was like on the radio all the time, huge, like big rallies, everything like this. And then, they just like, there's no more Ron Paul. They didn't have on any of the debates. He was like, he was out. That was like the first time I ever saw that happen. but pretty interesting. Our politics are pretty interesting. So, guys, I don't think I gave him a proper introduction. Gordon Einstein, he has his crypto law firm. He is stationed there in Dubai, and as well, I think German and American. Tell us.
So I actually haven't been in the U.S. for a couple of years, and I don't regret that absence. Though I miss my mom. Like I get to meet my mom at different, third-party locations like Argentina and London, and we in Mexico. So we get around. My primary place is Dubai, but I do a lot of work in what I call the DACH. You're maybe familiar, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, that region, just because of my background. And when things cool down, back to Ukraine also, because that's where my wife is from. But that's my
congratulations on you getting married, by the way.
Thank you. Yes. It's been a fortuitous 3 weeks.
It's a wonderful stage in life, man. I really, it's one of the best things you ever did. It takes a little while. It took me about 3 years to realize I was married. I just couldn't get through my head. I'm like,
yeah, well, you know what?
Somehow in my own head, and then I don't know, you just kind of give in, and you're like, well, I guess I'm married.
No, okay, I understand, but I'm not 12 years. You're young and pretty. Okay, I'm. How do I say this? I'll date myself and say I don't remember Nixon, but I remember the anger he caused. So.
Oh wow, yeah.
How's that? So at this point, I'm very happy to be married, and I consider myself fortunate to be with my wonderful wife, and to have gotten out of the last situation that you and I talked about. Whew. So
yes.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I think he's talking to you there, David, saying young.
Yeah, right.
I think so, right?
I'm in a rush. Not really.
David's being suspiciously quiet.
Of course.
That's how David
course.
rolls.
I'm observing.
He's actually doing a lot of. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's actually a very wise. He does keep quiet, but he comes out with some real gems. So he listens and he just comes out with the occasional real gem that is a real wisdom.
And he's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. I'll look at him and I'll see his eyes going here, there, and the other, and I know he's spinning this and spinning that on the back end, which is
he's calculating, he's trading, he's making it all happen.
I do
that kind of emergency. I'm not going to go into details just because of their privacy, but I have a brief few minutes now, and then I'm happy to rejoin you at a later date if that's okay. I just
absolutely. Well, we wrap up the show. It's an hour show anyway. So tell us a little bit about your what's going on there in Dubai. What are you seeing? What are your thoughts? I mean, we're having in a little bit, couple months here. What's the temperature of things?
So I think so. You're either one of those regulation guys. You either don't want regulation, or you hate regulation, or you accept the need for regulation. And then there's maybe people who say they love regulation. I don't really necessarily believe them. But Dubai, if you are someone who tolerates or views as necessary, if not fun, regulation, this is a good place to be because they are making progress. They are actually granting licenses. Companies are coming here, forming, getting licensed, going through the process with the regulator, and starting operations and receiving investment dollars and doing things. Okay, this is not a Monero haven. This is if you want to set up your company and do business, you can do business. It's got its challenges. So just to kind of give your viewers an overview, because I know not everyone's from here.
Please.
I'm in the United Arab Emirates. So this is basically a confederation like Switzerland. There's 7 semi-autonomous emirates that make up the UAE. So they're not like provinces in France where each one can do their own, where they're kind of subordinate to central government. Each one has its own identity. And the duopoly that sort of runs this place is Abu Dhabi, which is where the federal capital is, and Dubai, which is sort of, the younger brasher brother. I'm sure we all love that reference. And so the two have a co-opetition, I call it. So you have the federal regulator that's in Abu Dhabi, that's ASCA, the Emirates Securities and Commodities Authority. They have putative authority over what it sounds like securities and commodities, which would naturally include tokens. If whether it's a security or commodity, most tokens, 99% of tokens would fall underneath there unless it's a payment token. which case it would fall underneath the central bank. But Dubai has formed its own regulator, VARA, Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, that even though it's on the Emirates level, even though it's not federal, has delegated authority from the central regulator. And VARA is being very proactive with their rules and consulting with projects and bringing people in. And I think they're a bit overwhelmed because of the amount of interest and incoming money and people and projects. And, it's one of those things where sometimes it's hard to get a phone call back or an email back, but they're getting better and they're granting licenses. That's the key. They're granting licenses. Stuff is happening. Now, the big, unfortunately, I just got a couple of minutes. The big hurdle remains banking. Okay.
That was like the next, you took the words right out of my mouth. Have they, because we haven't been to Dubai in at least half a year now. I'm really missing it. But I'm
doing a lunch on the 27th. I invited you. You can come.
I know. You know what's funny is I'm doing it. I since I haven't been traveling as much, I told my wife for like years. I was like, I should do a play with my daughters. There's the Old Town Little Theater right here in Old Town Alexandria. We should try out for a play. And sure enough, I looked at, and they were doing Annie. Annie. Okay. And so me and my two daughters, we've all went and tried out 9-year-old, 13-year-old, and we all got cast. And there's like 20 shows. And so I'm about halfway through the shows, and it's been a blast. It's been a blast. But I'm until like the 10th of March.
You got cast. Okay, that's
I'm like the best, singing. And
that's the best version of the dog ate my homework I've ever heard. I got cast in Annie.
Funny.
Okay,
it's pretty funny. But thanks for inviting me, and I'll definitely take a rain check.
No, I hope so. Well, I do 1 or 2 every month. That's something else maybe we can talk about on another show. But just wrap up the thought before I have to take care of that client. The banking is a challenge because if you set up a regular, so Dubai and UAE in general has its banking challenges. It was on the Financial Action Task Force gray list for a while. I think they're off now. And so the banks are conservative. They're doing AML KYC, in my opinion, maybe more than they need to, but they're also they're trying to clean up their reputation, and they're naturally hesitant to engage in crypto, even though it's being approved by the government. So it's tough to open an account. It's tough to get your banking back in, especially if you're doing custodianship or brokerage or something more kind of regulatory heavy. What some people are doing is they're setting up offshore bank accounts and sort of using those, but obviously that's not ideal. It is a challenge. It's a game of time and patience and relationships and Habibi and all this other stuff. But by way of contrast, I think based on a conversation I had yesterday, I think Switzerland a choice of banks, which one do you want to use? Here is like, can you even get an account? So that remains a challenge. And also moving money in and out of the country remains a challenge. But one thing at a time, they are moving forward. So it's a positive environment.
Amazing. Yeah. It's you get direct access to the people, I mean, you can go right down. We know we've met all these people personally. We know the big names, and you can call them, you can go see them, you can go have lunch. And I think that access is very, very important.
Yes. It has a small country benefit.
Yes.
Which you see a lot, country like, Hong Kong or Singapore, I'm using country in quotes, it's Israel, even, when you have a small country, you can kind of go talk to the regulator and then you'll see them somewhere else and they'll recognize you and you can do your thing. I've had that. Ironically, I had that experience in Ukraine, which is hardly a small country, but the regulators are small, and so the UAE has that flavor also where you can get to them. In the US, good luck in the SEC and they won't tell you anything anyway. So my friend, I got to run. I have to take care of this client.
Yes, Gordon, go save your friend, and we'll circle back maybe next week.
Gordon,
pleasure, man. I look forward to talking more. Your thing was interesting, guys. You look great. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
cheers.
Gordon Einstein. I'm so happy that he got married. I know he's been doing it for a long time. Always good to see that happening, and great to have him on the show too.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I'm running away to another meeting now. And
all right, brother.
Come tomorrow.
Talk tomorrow. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Real pleasure. Cheers,
great David. Show today.
Certainly was. Bye-bye.
All right, see ya. All right, guys. Well, we are wrapping up another great morning here on Impact Money. Impact Money in the morning. Another
right.
great show. Thank you so much for joining us on Smart Money Culture TV, on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana. We are expanding rapidly. If you are interested in being part of that growth, go to go to smartmoneyculture.tv, hit contact, send us a check. Signing off.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.